The storyteller welcomes you to another nightmare. Plug in your earphones, close your eyes, and let us begin.
I didn't believe in ghosts before that night, but I swear what we encountered in those woods was something otherworldly, something alive, something still hunting, and it was waiting for us. Maybe it started as a simple camping trip, a weekend escape from the chaos of the city, a few friends, a couple of tents, and miles of wilderness in the Pacific Northwest. But the moment I heard the first whistle, I knew something was wrong. It wasn't much at first, just a sound. We were sitting around a fire, laughing, drinking, talking about nothing. And then there was a whistle. It wasn't loud, but it was clear, piercing, the kind of whistle you can't ignore. But at first, we brushed it off. Probably just some random hiker, or maybe a bird, right? Only it wasn't just once. It came again and again. Each time, it was a little closer, and I could see the unease on their faces. I know what you're thinking. It's probably a prank, maybe another camper. But something about the way it echoed through those trees felt wrong. Too perfect in its pitch. Too deliberate. The second night, the whistling was louder. It was right there, just beyond the trees. I remember feeling my heartbeat in my throat. I looked at my friends, and I could tell they heard it too. But no one said anything. We just sat there, frozen. That's when I decided we had to find out what it was. Stupid, right? But we grabbed our flashlights and started walking toward the sound. We didn't know what we were looking for, but we were desperate to find something that made sense. Maybe a lost hiker, maybe someone playing a prank. Hell, maybe it was just the wind. That's what we told ourselves as we went deeper into the woods. As we ventured deeper, the whistling grew louder, almost like it was leading us. And then, out of nowhere, we saw it. A cabin. Old, abandoned and off the trail. It wasn't on any of the maps. Not anywhere. It looked like it hadn't been touched in decades. But the door was slightly ajar. We should have turned back right then, but, well, curiosity got the better of us. We stepped inside. The floorboards creaked beneath our weight, and the smell of mildew hit us like a wall. Dust covered every surface, but there were signs that something had been there recently. And that's when we found it. The journal, tucked away, hidden behind some old crates. Written in faded ink was the name, Thomas Whistler. I didn't think much of it at first, but the deeper we read, the worse it got. Whistler was a trapper, a man who'd been living in these woods over 50 years ago. He'd gone missing, just vanished. No one knew where. But the journal, it told a different story. It wasn't just the woods that took him. It was voices. They drove him mad. Voices that whispered in the dark. And those whispers led him to do terrible things. The kind of things I couldn't even imagine. The kind of things that would make your skin crawl if I told you everything. Whistler had killed, and the worst part, he didn't stop. He couldn't stop. The journal spoke of his madness, of how the whispers, those same voices, wouldn't let him leave. He had marked his victims, left their bodies in places only he knew about. There was no way out. And after reading that, we all felt it. That creeping dread, the coldness that seeped into our bones. We couldn't stay there anymore. We had to leave. But as we made our way back, that's when it happened. The whistling. Again. But this time, it was right behind us. We could hear it, clear as day. And it wasn't just one whistle. It was a pattern, like someone was moving with us, staying just out of sight. That's when we started running. We couldn't even see who or what was out there, but we could hear the whistle, always just a few steps behind us, closer and closer, until we could feel the hairs on our necks stand up. Suddenly I froze. I saw something, just a flash, a figure standing between the trees. A man, but he was just standing there, staring. His face was hidden in shadows, but I could feel his eyes on me. He didn't move. He just whistled. We made it back to camp, but it didn't matter. We were never alone again. For the rest of the night, that whistle followed us. It lingered, echoing through the trees. And no matter how far we went, it was always there, just behind us. We couldn't escape. When morning came, we left. No one said a word. We didn't have to. We knew. We were done. And when we finally reached our car, I turned around one last time. The woods were silent, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still out there, watching, whistling. Thomas Whistler never left those woods, and neither did his whispers. Some places are meant to be found. Some things should stay buried. Before we move on to the next story, if you like true scary stories, please subscribe to Storyteller and click the bell icon for more creepy tales every week. Have you ever heard of a place that doesn't let you leave? A place that calls to you, drags you deeper into its heart, and then never lets you go? I know it sounds insane, but that place is real, and I was foolish enough to find it. My name's Mark, and this is a story of how I came face to face with something not human. It happened in the mid-1990s when I went camping in a place that most people had heard about, but no one dared to talk about. The locals called it the Forest of No Return. I'd been a seasoned camper for years. I'd hiked in remote forests all over the country. Nothing scared me. At least, that's what I thought. When I first heard about the Forest of No Return, I dismissed it like everyone else. Just a legend. Old stories told around campfires. Ghosts, spirits, nothing more than superstition. But then, I saw the map. The forest looked different. It wasn't just some backwoods trail. It was isolated, the kind of place that promised solitude. And maybe that was a problem. I wasn't ready for what the forest was waiting for. The first day was peaceful. The forest was quiet, but not unnerving. I set up camp, made a fire, and just sat there alone with nothing but the wind and the trees. But then, as the sun dipped below the horizon, something changed. A whisper. At first, I thought it was just the wind, the trees rustling in that way that only forests do. But it wasn't wind. At first, I couldn't make out the words. But then it was clear. It was my name, Mark. Soft, almost playful. Mark. I looked around. There was no one. The forest was empty. But the whispers, they didn't stop. They followed me. I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination. But the whispers, they never stopped. They followed me everywhere. And they weren't just random sounds. It was like they were trying to get my attention, luring me, pulling me deeper into the woods. Mark. They called, always just behind me, never in front, never anywhere I could see. But I knew they were there. At one point, I even shouted back, "Who's there?" Nothing, just silence. But as I turned around to leave, I swear I heard it again. Only this time it was closer, too close. Now, I don't know why I did this, but I decided to keep going, deeper into the woods, thinking maybe it was some kind of prank or the wind playing tricks on me. But the whispers, they got louder. They were directing me, like they wanted me to go in a certain direction. I turned down a path I didn't recognize. It wasn't on the map. The trees were closing in around me. And that's when I saw it, a figure, a man dressed in old, tattered clothes, walking toward me. His movements were unnatural, slow, but deliberate. There was something off about him. The way he moved, the way his eyes just stared at me. I don't know why, but I felt frozen. I couldn't move. I just stood there, staring at him. He didn't speak. He didn't even acknowledge me, but I felt it. He was waiting for me to make a move. I tried to back away, but the forest shifted around me. The path vanished, like it was never there. The trees seemed to close in like they were trapping me. Panic hit me. I turned and ran, but I could hear his footsteps behind me. The whispers turned into laughter. It was like the forest itself was mocking me. I couldn't find the trail. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't find a way out. The trees, the path, everything felt wrong. The air, it felt thick. It wasn't just the fear. It was the forest itself. It was alive. I don't know how long I ran. Time felt like it didn't exist anymore. I kept hearing him, the figure, but I could never see him again. And the whispers, they were everywhere. And then, I don't remember anything else. It's like everything just faded. Days later, a search party found my gear, my tent, my pack, but no sign of me. They searched for days, weeks, but nothing. There were no signs of a struggle, no clues about where I had gone. Just nothing. And the worst part, the locals weren't surprised. They told me the truth, the real truth. They told me about the spirits that haunted that forest, how it wasn't just the trees that wanted you gone, but the souls of those who died there, the settlers, the Native Americans, the battle, and how it still lures people in just like it had with me. The forest of no return didn't want me to leave, and I was lucky that I made it out at all. But the whispers, the figure, they're still out there. And I know it wasn't the forest that let me go. It was just waiting. If you ever hear whispers in the woods, if you ever feel something following you, something watching you from the trees, don't go deeper. Don't turn around. Because in the forest of no return, you might not come back.